Welcome to Bear, brought to you by Giddy, the world's largest sexual health platform.
I'm here with TV host and one of my media idols, Jillian Barberie, fellow breast cancer survivor.
Thank you. Yes, fellow breast cancer survivor.
What type of breast cancer? When were you diagnosed? Okay. And just take me through it.
So me and Lisa Ashley, who's the head makeup artist at Fox NFL when I was on the NFL pregame show, her and I are really good friends, and she decided to start this MMM, and it was mammograms, mimosas, and massages, but it was mostly mimosas because I would make up these like French 75s. Anyway, on the 12th year, I was like, fuck it, I don't want to go. I don't want to make drinks again. I have to work. And she's like, no, I'm booking you first one of the day. Went back, get called down again. They give me a sonogram. I'm like, uh-oh. I knew it. I just knew it. First of all, why am I getting a sonogram? Like when I was pregnant twice, I had 2 sonograms. That's when I knew something was like really fucked up.
Did you have pain or like,
Nothing.
did you just have a feeling?
Nothing. Although my nipple was inverted.
Exactly. Well,
So
that's
I saw
important to talk
dimpling.
about.
They call it dimpling. So the cancer, essentially, they showed me on screen. It was really creepy. It looks like a bunch of crabs, and it was grabbing my nipple from the inside out. I went back to make drinks, and my regular doctor, my practitioner, called me, and he said, hi. And I'm like, hi? Why are you calling me? And he's like, you're handling this very well. And I'm like, handling what? And he goes, the fact that you have breast cancer. I'm like, how the fuck do you know? I haven't even had a biopsy. And he's like, you do. You have textbook breast cancer.
Whoa.
So I went back to Lisa and I said, I think I have to leave. I drove home. My biggest fear was telling my kids.
Wait, so how did he, so you said you...
They called him first to tell me.
Okay.
I called work. I was at KBC Radio at the time, and I said, I'm not coming in, obviously. And then the second call I made was to Bedford Breast Clinic. Mm-hmm. So I said, you guys, I have breast cancer, chop them both off. And they're like, that's pretty radical. They're like, you haven't even had your biopsy yet. I go, I don't give a shit. I have a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old.
And what type? And were you ever, did you do the genetic testing?
Which is funny. I did that years when Angelina Jolie did it. I did it. I spent like $4,000.
Did it come up?
Came up negative.
Really? Same with me. I have my BRCA 1 and 2, both negative.
Negative.
The gene mutation.
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
What a waste of $4,000.
And so what type? Mine was triple negative.
So I'm HER2 negative, estrogen positive.
And you had been divorced how many years at that point?
Good Lord.
When you're going through cancer,
like
you were single, going through all that.
Oh yeah, totally single. And I would do the radio show and then go to chemo at Cedars for 4 hours, then come home, look after the kids, do a 4-hour radio show, 4 hours of chemo, and then come home and be a full-time mom. And it was probably the hardest time in my life.
How can men support you going through, like somebody like you that has to have their nipples, their breasts removed?
I don't know, because I am
so
independent. I've never relied on a man.
Okay, well, that's
and my last
amazing.
husband was a Marine sniper. His father or his grandfather had breast cancer, and like nobody really talked about it. It was just sort of, like men can get it too. I would say to men, just be there and listen. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be over the top about it. Do little things and just be there. If she's venting, fucking let her vent. Like, chemo is so stressful. It brings on such anxiety. I think for a good 2 years, go through a hardcore depression and gained a lot of weight and allowed myself to, because I was just like, I need to be in this moment. And I'm so sick of just restricting myself. And I never worked out. But when you're depressed, you don't give a fuck about anything. You don't care if you haven't talked to your father, your mother, and forever.
Oh, yeah.
You don't care if you haven't seen
your
friends.
I go radio silent.
Radio silent.
I don't respond. Even responding to one text seems like
exhausting.
Seems like a marathon, right? Is it your hair loss or your boob loss that affected you the most, would you say?
Oh God, that's a good question.
Like what made you feel like less
It's so weird because
less
less female, right? Because they take your boobs and your hair, and those are both feminine things. I've never really, I don't know. I was blow drying my daughter's hair, and I looked in the mirror and I went, oh, I'm a fucking monster. And I whispered it, and she heard it. And she was like, Mommy. Like, I could cry, like, thinking back. She was like, don't say that. No, you're not. And I was like, but I look like Boris Yeltsin, like, bald. She's like, who's that? No, I was just really in a bad place. And I would go to the shower to cry because I did not want them to hear.
So you had to put that face on and deal with it privately.
Yes, and it was not, there were dark days.
Yeah.
So sex drive for me was like the last thing in my mind. I was just trying to put food on the table for my kids.
Yeah.
I was trying to just be the best mom I could be.
Enter kids, priorities shifting.
Yes.
Have you had those conversations with your kids About sex? Like, what do they ask
Oh,
you?
yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, I was
Yeah.
molested, so I always tell them, I've told them since they were very little, those are your privates and those are yours. Because when I was little, it was different. I was adopted. I didn't know, I was like, oh, maybe this is happening because I'm not really their flesh and blood. And then you find out years later, talk to a cousin, and you're like, oh, you went through that too, and they're your natural?
How long did you suffer through that?
From like maybe 5 to 10, 6 to 10. But I always tell my kids, like, it can happen to anybody. It can be a family member. It can be a beautiful blonde woman like you off the street. Like, can you help me find my puppy? There are so many ways things happen. It could
And
be
the grooming. Sometimes it might not be obvious at first.
grooming is a really hard part.
Getting them comfortable with you without doing anything sexual.
Yes, and for me, grooming is all about online, and that scares me because I didn't have that when I was a kid, right? And I was still sexually molested for years. Now it's open, it's online.
Are your kids both online?
Oh, my kids are online and savvy.
I'm so glad I didn't grow up with, even though I love social media.
I think, for some women it's really important. Since I've been on TikTok, you just type in breast cancer and you see all these women and you're just like, oh my God, their stories are way worse than mine.
A lot of uplifting and inspiring things on
Inspiring.
TikTok. Yeah.
So good and so positive and so fun. It's like what you said, like you coming here today. It's like, hey, it is what it is. We can make the best of it. And seriously, this has been a lot of fun. And thank you for coming to my house and making it so easy peasy.
For all of your sexual health related news, information, and questions, visit getmegiddy.com.